Hello friends, today we are going to discuss about access modifiers in Java. Okay, so as the name suggests, access modifiers in Java basically helps to restrict the scope of a class, constructor, variable and method or any data member. Okay, so we already know that there are four types of access modifiers in Java. First one will be default. So we don't need to specify any keyword to declare any variable or method with the access modifier as default. Nothing is written, that means by default the access modifier will be the default. Okay, the second one will be the private will be the most restrictive access modifier in Java. Then third one will be the protected, and then we will have public will be most public, as the name suggests, accessible to anyone from anywhere. So that's how public will work. So let's understand the default access modifier. When no access modifier is specified for a class, method, or data member, it is said to be having the default access modifier by default, as I already said in earlier slide. Okay, so the data members, class, or methods which are not declared using any access modifier, that is having default access modifier, are accessible only within the same package. Okay, so that's important to know that any uh, data member declared as default, it will be accessible only within the same package. So that means you cannot access it outside that package. Okay, so we are going to consider one example wherein we are going to create two packages, and the classes in the packages will be having the default access modifier, and we'll try to access a class of one package from a class of second package. So let's see the example. Okay, so if you see now what I have done here, just created two packages, access modifier default one package which is having learning curve Java as a class, and access modifier default 2 which is having YouTube channel.java. Okay, so that's how it is done. So in a first package I have just created one display method which says out display learning curve. I'm just gonna printing something, okay, in a display method. And in a second class, that is YouTube channel, from a second package, I am trying to invoke that method. So if you observe what it says, that change visibility of learning curve to public, that means as we have declared it as a default, it is not visible in another class. Okay, change visibility of public to public. Then let's understand the private one. As I said earlier, private will be the most restrictive access modifier. The private access modifier is specified using the keyword private. Obviously, we just need to mention private, and then the data map field. We need to declare the data field, whatever. The methods or data members declared as private are accessible only within the class in which they are declared. Okay, so it is even not accessible in the same package, or not even accessible in the subclass as well in the same package. So private will data members will be accessible within the class only. Okay, any other class of same package will not be access these members. Classes or interfaces cannot be declared as private. Okay, so this is important. Why classes and interfaces cannot be declared as private? Because sometimes we need to use the classes or interfaces, because classes and interfaces will be used by um, other classes, right? We need to use class for extending other class. We need to use interface to implement the methods from the interface. So that's why you cannot use classes or interfaces as private. So in the example, the next example which we are going to see, what we will do, we will create two classes A and B within the same package. Let's say P1. We will declare a method in a class A as private and try to access this method from class B and see the results. Okay, so it's very simple. So if you see what I have done, I have just created, or let's do one thing. Let's do use the existing classes itself. And what I am done, I have just changed this display method to private. And now what I am doing, I am just trying the same thing, like creating object and trying to invoke the display method. So if you observe, it will again give the error. So the error will be same, change visibility of display to public, because the private declared is not visible to this class. So let's understand more about the private access modifier. The private access modifier is the most restrictive access modifier, right? I'm just reiterating so that it will imprint your mind that it's the most restrictive access modifier. The members of a class defined using the private access modifier are accessible only to themselves. So, okay, that's how we say it's most restrictive. It doesn't matter whether the class or interface in question is from another package or extended the class. Private members are not accessible outside the class in which they are defined. Private members are accessible only to the classes and interfaces in which they are defined. Okay, so this is important. So if you are declaring anything private in a class or interface, it will be accessible only within that class or interface. So what is the use of private outer class when it can't use of anything? Obviously it cannot be used as the starting class, right? See below image for more details, similar details access modifier. Okay, so let's understand the entity name and the all the access modifier along with the private. So if you are a top level class interface enum, so public you can if it is public you can access it. Within the protected and private you cannot access it. Class variables and methods. Okay, class variables methods within the class for public, protected, private, or definitely you can access it. Then instance variable and methods. Instance variable and methods within the class will be definitely accessible with public, protected, and private access modifier. Method parameter and local variables. Okay, so if you are declaring method parameters and local variables as public and protected and private, it won't be accessible. Okay, because those are local basically, and those will be accessible within the scope of the method only. Then protected. The protected access modifier is specified using the keyword protected. It's similar to private. The methods or data members declared as protected are accessible within the same package or subclasses in a different package. So we should keep in mind that the protected access modifiers will be accessible within the subclass. Up to the subclass we can say, whether no matter whether it's in same package or not in the same package. No, okay. In this example we will create two packages. Okay, similarly we will create two packages. We will display one method in class 1 and we'll try to access the same method from class 2. Okay, so if you observe here, there is a access modifier um, p1 package wherein we are mentioning protected and display method there, and we are just accessing the method from the other uh, class basically. And if you observe, as it's a subclass because we extended, then it will run fine and it will print that message. Public. The public access modifier is specified using the keyword public. The public access modifier has the widest scope among all other access modifier. Classes, methods, or data members which are declared as public are accessible from everywhere in the program. There is no restriction on the scope of public data members. So the name suggests it is public to everyone. Okay. So similarly, we will try modify that example, and we all know that if it is public, then it will be easily accessible from the different package as well. So if you run, it is definitely going to print that display message that is learning curve. So I'll just wait for output. Yeah, that's it. So one important point we need to keep in mind about access modifier: if other programmers use your class, try to use the most restrictive access level that makes sense for a particular member. Okay, so one should always use most restrictive access modifier. uh, you should use the protected and public access modifier only when there is a better reason that these access modifiers are being used by other classes for some purpose. Otherwise, you should always use private unless you have good reason not to. Avoid public fields except for constants. Constants definitely need to have the um, public field because those will be widely used across the board. Okay, so finally, I have just put in the scope of access modifiers in tabular form. So this slide will be helpful to remember each access modifier will be accessible where and when. Okay, so for public, it will be yes for everything. For protected, as we discussed, it will be yes for class, package, and subclass of the same package and subclass of the different package. Okay, then default will be the accessible within the package itself, that means class and package and subclass of same package. And then private will be the only class. So if you observe, this is a kind of parameter which is coming down, down and down. So first four, then first five, then four, then three, and then one only. Okay, so that's how it is. So public is private is most restrictive. After private, default comes. This is secondly most restrictive. After default, then protected will come. This is thirdly most restrictive, and public will be accessible to everyone actually. So that's it for today's session, guys. Thank you very much. And as usual, if you have any comments or concerns, try to put it in comment section, or you can drop me an email to step by step at outlook.in.